This video is for 13.3 homework, so if you have any questions on these problems, then be sure to follow along here. So number one tells us that I can't see hold on. There we go, there's my pens. Okay, so number one tells us that a cube-shaped box, that means every single side that it has is a square, and it has 6 of those since it is a cube. So this has 6 squares. Can be completely wrapped in gift wrap that measures 384 square inches. So this is the surface area here. And now we need to find the volume. So we know our total is this. So we want to work backwards and we want to find one of these pieces, one of the faces, then we'll find the dimensions, then we'll use those dimensions to find the volume. So we know this has 6 sides equally spread out. So we're going to start with 384 and we're going to divide by 6. So once you have that number here, this number right here is the total of one of the squares. And remember, squares have the same measurements, x and x. They have to be the same. So something times something will equal this number here. So you might have to do some thinking around. So I know this number is going to have 2 digits. So, right, I know if I did 10 times 10, that's 100, and that's going to be too big. So I know my numbers have to be smaller than 10. So something times something that's smaller than 10 in itself will equal this number here from our quotient. So once you know this dimension, that's going to be your length, it's going to be your width, and it's going to be your height. So you'll plug that in here, here, and here, length times width times height to find the volume. So we divide by 6 since there's 6 sides. That tells us one side. We find what the sides are. Since it's a square, they have to be the same. Then I use that to find the length, the width, the height. They're all the same. And multiply to find the volume. Number 2 says that an architect builds a house like the one shown, so 20 feet by 15.42 by 19.6. What is the total volume of the house? So we're going to do 20 times 15.42. So we're going to start with that. And then once we have that answer, we're going to times that by 19.6. So don't forget your decimal places as you are doing that multiplication. So go ahead and do that. Number 3 says that an aquarium has a large fish tank with the dimensions that are shown. So 18 by 5 by, we don't know the height here. The total volume is 858. Oh, I read that backwards. 585. What is the depth of the tank? So how deep is this tank? So we know to find volume, we do length times width times height. So let's fill out what we know. We know the volume is 585. We know the length here is 18. We know the width here is 5. And the height, we don't know. They called it x. So we need to get x all by itself. But first, we can multiply this length and width together. So we're going to do 18 times 5 and start with that. Then we want to get that x by itself. So whatever 18 times 5 is, we are going to divide by that on both sides. So we'll divide by 18 times 5. And then we have to do it over here as well. So whatever 18 times 5 is, you're going to do 585 divided by this answer here to see how deep this tank is. Joshua is organizing a garage using stackable containers like the one shown. He has 12 of them. What is the combined total volume of the container? So we need to find one of these containers and then multiply that by 12 since he has 12 of those. So we're going to start and find the volume. The length is 16.5. And the width going back is 24. So we're going to multiply that by 24. Don't forget your placeholder. And then once we have that answer, we're going to multiply that by 12. And that is going to be this one container. So once we have this, then we have to multiply by 12 again for each of the 12 containers. Number 5 says that Aubrey has a suitcase with a volume of 2,200 cubic inches. So right here, it's telling me it's cubic inches. So that's the volume. That's my total. The length is 25. The width is 11. What is the height? So let's list out what we know. So volume is length times width times height. So we know the total is 2,200. The length is 25. The width is 11. And we don't know the height. So we're going to start here and we want to combine what we know. So 25 times 11. So do that. And then we want to get h by itself. So the opposite of timesing by 25 and 11 is to divide. So we'll divide, which cancels this out. When I do 25 times 11 divided by 25 times 11, it all just cancels out. And then whatever this answer is here, I divide here. So we're going to take 2,200 divided by whatever 25 times 11 is and put that here and simplify our problem until we're left with h. Number 6 has a rectangular prism that has a length of 2 3/5, a width of 1 2/5, and we have the total prism volume. What is the height of the prism? And then we're going to explain how we found our answer. So we know that volume equals length times width times height. And our volume is 10 23/25. Our length here is 2 3/5. Our width is 1 2/5. And the height is what we are looking for. So we need to make everything improper first. So let's start here. 5 times 1 is 5, 6, 7. So we've got 7/5 times h. 5 times 2 is 10, 11, 12, 13 over 5. And then let me get rid of that line there. So then we need to do 25 times 10 is 250, but we need 23 more is 273 out of 25. So we need to get h all by itself. So we're going to start and we're going to combine these together. So we're going to start and do 13/5 times 7/5. So go ahead and do 13 times 7 and 5 times 5 and then come back and check. So I know 5 times 5 is 25 and 13 times 7 is 21. 7, 8, 9 is 91. And since I'm multiplying and dividing, I know I just need to leave it improper because multiplying and dividing fractions need improper fractions. So this new problem is 273 over 25 equals 91 25ths times h. So we canceled this out. We're left with 91 over 25 h. So we need to get h all by itself. So the opposite of divide times is to divide. So we're going to divide by 91 25ths, which cancels this out. And then over here, again, we're going to divide by 91 25ths. We have to do it to both sides to keep that equal. So our new problem is 273 over 25 divided by 91/25. This is our total, so it needs to go in the front. We divided by 91/25, so that needs to go in the back. So now we're going to copy. Let me get a little more room here. So we're going to copy, dot, and flop here. So the 25s cancel out. So we're left with 273 over 91 here. So now we just need to finish and see 273 divided by 91. So I'm going to let you go ahead and finish that up to see what that is. So our explanation though, so they found the volume is by multiplying length times width times height. So that's what we started with. The length times the width is equal to blank. So that's where we did this. We did length times width here. So let's see if we can find one that matches this here. So yes, it's equal to this. So we did that. And the volume of the prism, we know, was this here, the total here. They just have it as their mixed numbers still. To find the height, we're going to divide the total. So we need this one again. We're taking the total and we're dividing it. Whoops, I don't need that again. By 91/25. And then the height is which one of these? So when you did 273 divided by 91, which answer was that? Okay, number 7 says that the students in an art class are given boxes to use for storage for their materials for the year. Look at this figure. 8 by something by 4, and the total is 72. So this is going to be way easier than the last one. So our volume is length times width times height. So we know the volume is 72. The length is 8. We don't know this depth here, the width. And we know the height is 4. So we have W times 4. So 8 times W times 4. So we're going to combine the length and the height. 8 times 4 is 32. So we have 32 W's equals the total of 72. So we need to get W by itself. So the opposite of timesing by 32 is to divide by 32 on both sides here. So this one cancels out. So we just need to end with 72 divided by 32 to get that final answer there for the width. Number 8 says that a sculptor buys a block of marble shaped like a rectangular prism for a sculpture. So we've got some sort of rectangular prism here. So it looks like a rectangle. I've got a little extra here. And the original block of marble had a length of 3.5 and a width of 4 and a height of 2.8. The sculptor chisels away a volume of marble that is equal to 12.2. What is the remaining volume? So first we need to know this volume, and then he got rid of 12.2. So if we're getting rid of something, we want to subtract that. So we're going to find this volume, subtract what he chipped away, will tell us what is left. So we need to do 3.5 times 4. Don't forget your decimal here. And then we'll times that by 2.8. And that's what he started with. And then we'll want to take away 12.2. So remember, when we subtract, we want to line up our decimals and bring it straight down. So make sure your decimals are lined up. Number 9, Angelie buys a decorative photo box as shown. So very fancy. 8.5 by 14 by 6.25. What is the volume of the photo box? So we need to do 8.5. And I'm going to actually start with 6.25 and put that on the top. So even though it's the smallest number, it has the most digits in it. So I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to multiply it by the length here of 8.5. And remember, you have 1, 2, 3 decimal places. Then once you know this answer, then you'll times that by 14. I always like to save the last ones for the end. I like to get the hard stuff out of the way, but you can do it in whatever order you feel like. You could do 6.25 times 14 and then times by 8.5. You should all get the same answer. So length times width times height, and that will give you the volume of the photo box. Number 10 wants to know the area of this triangle. So the formula for area of a triangle is base times height, but remember that gives us a rectangle. So we want to cut it in half to find a triangle. So the base is 3/4 and the height is 1 1/4. We need to make this improper. So 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5/4. So we're going to do this. So that is 15 out of 16, but then we're dividing it by 2. So that's 2/1. So we need to copy. This is what we have. This is what we're dividing by. Whoops, copy dot, put another divide sign, copy dot, flop will tell us our final area of this triangle. Number 11 wants us to evaluate, which just means to solve anything we can to simplify it down. So we always follow our order of operations. We don't have any groups, but we do have exponents. This really means 3 times 3. That's 3 times itself, minus 2 times itself, plus 1. So we want to do this first. We want to do this second. And then we'll subtract these answers here and add on 1 more. And number 12 says that Amanda earns $12 an hour babysitting. She spends $8 of her earnings on dinner later that evening. Write an expression to represent her total profit after babysitting for X amount of hours and then eating dinner. So she didn't just babysit for an hour. So, right, so this is representing her hours and this is representing her money. If she babysits for 1 hour, she earns $12. If she babysits for 2 hours, she earns $24 and so on. If she babysits for 3 hours, she would earn $36. So we don't know how many hours she babysat for. So how did I get from here? We're actually going to call this X for hours since it said that in the problem. How did I get from X to the money? Every time we times by 12. So that means I need 12 X's. So these are her hours. Whatever number of hours she did, she just plugs that in. And then she spent 8 of that minus 8 will be how much money she earned. Okay, so go ahead and finish your homework. And if you have any other questions, please let me know and we can set up a time to meet together.